Alors, order. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Party is constantly congratulating itself on being the great defender of supply management, and yet it didn't hesitate to abandon dairy producers when it made its trade deal with Europe. It left them with an inadequate and improvised compensation plan. It's doing the same thing with the TPP. The Bloc Québécois stands firmly against the concessions made in the TPP. We also stand against the carelessness of the Liberals in hurrying to make an agreement, but not in much of a hurry to help these people out. In 2015, they said they would reevaluate the compensation plan, but now they're consulting. As far as we're concerned, we don't need endless consultations to see that Quebec producers are once again being taken for fools. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Louis.
He is an organization founded to champion the interests of young women working in the energy sector. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Maud Ramsey, one of an impressive group of 2017 Young Women in Energy Award winners. As Senior Supervisor for Environment and Regulatory Affairs at Devon, Canada, Maud leads a multidisciplinary team responsible for air, water, land, and regulatory management. She and her team pursue new and innovative approaches to monitoring and improving environmental performance at her company, including in the areas of carbon reduction, wetland restoration, and the protection of water quality. Maud was nominated for her role as a mentor who actively seeks to develop her employees and provide them with opportunities for growth. Mr. Speaker, why am I making specific mention of Maud among this year's award winners? Well, in the spirit of full disclosure, Maud is my sister-in-law, and needless to say, our family is extremely proud of her.
The Honourable Member for Simcoe Grey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Childhood obesity continues to be a major health concern for Canadian kids. Report after report continue to use language like epidemic when describing this problem. Healthy eating is important, but physical activity is as well. Health Canada's own website even says so. Kids need to be active. For many hardworking families, the cost of putting their child in sports is a challenge. In 2006, I was appointed chair of the expert panel for the Children's Fitness Tax Credit to help offset the cost for putting kids in activities. The Conservative government implemented it. After 2011, the credit became a subsidy. Our trust fund prime minister, though, campaigned on a pledge to help middle-class families. As soon as he took power, he instructed his trust fund finance minister to cut the one program that was helping kids get active. Rich Liberals may not have a problem paying for these costs for their kids, but many Canadians do. Will the government bring back excellent initiatives like the Children's Fitness Tax Credit so kids can be active and be healthy?
Honourable Member for Malpeque.
Mr. Speaker, in mid-December, I and 3 other MPs were fortunate to participate in the Canadian Leaders at Sea program through the Department of Defence. Upon boarding the submarine HMCS Windsor and sailing out of Halifax, the Windsor submerged in the Atlantic and we experienced life on a submarine under the sea. Remarkable is how I'd describe the crew, as they avoided detection from surface vessels and helicopters and performed various other military exercises. After surfacing and being transferred to the frigate HMCS Toronto, we enjoyed some of that famous Navy food, defended against mock night boarders, and had to be belted in our bunks to prevent from being tossed out onto the floor. On the Toronto, we participated in and observed prevention of boarders, fire drills, mock damage, electronic and air attacks to general surveillance. The highlight was getting to know the men and women on board and their expertise. There is no doubt we're in good hands with our Navy. We thank them for their dedication.
The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke. Mr. Speaker, the end of the criminal proceedings which followed the Lac Mégantic tragedy closes one chapter of this very sad and painful history, which will mark the collective memory of Canadians and Quebecers forever. Although a significant page has been turned, there's still a great deal to do to deal with the psychological repercussions. And this begins with removing the daily source of anxiety that is the downtown rail crossing. Unfortunately, the end of this chapter shines a light on the absence of the Canadian government as one of the responsible parties. They have been not adequately funding inspection. There have been waivers allowed for private carriers. And also, some of them have been recognized as neglectful, even though they got off easy. The government got off easy. I hope that it will learn the lessons it has to and will no longer close its eyes to negligent, dangerous practices.
East.
Mr. Speaker, to conclude Canada 150 celebrations in St. John's East, I hosted a Canada 150 citizenship ceremony. Based on nominations from the towns in my riding as well as from constituents, we nominated and recognized 20 groups and citizens who have made exceptional contributions to the Northeast Avalon. Les lauréats avaient dû démontrer.
The award winners demonstrated qualities associated with one of the major themes of Canada 150, diversity and inclusion, reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, the environment, and youth.
Susan Arns, Nora Boone, Janan Daw, Christopher Dredge, Jeff Eaton, Dr. Brett Favero, Dr. Andrew Fury, Dr. Joel Heath, Linda Hickey, Jerry Marshall, Marion McCarthy, Michael O'Keefe, Patrick O'Rourke, Daniel Pottle, William Parsons, Josh Smee, Bruce Tricot, Sterling Willis, Bradley Rachel and Julianne Moss, and the medical professionals at the Refugee Health Clinic. Their achievements will be detailed in my next householder. Merci et félicitations.
Thank you and congratulations.
Member for Flamborough-Glanbrook.
Mr. Speaker, our nation and my city, Hamilton, Ontario, lost a statesman and a leader this week with the passing of our longest-serving mayor, Mr. Robert Morrow. He was immediately hailed as a kind-hearted man, and that he most certainly was. As Hamiltonians recount the stories and memories, including my other parliamentary colleagues, it's clear that Bob Morrow was an extraordinarily selfless person in so many ways. Mr. Speaker, he was also a relentless promoter of Hamilton. That's what I want to focus on in the celebration of his life. A strong proponent of revitalizing Hamilton's waterfront, Mayor Morrow famously plunged into the Hamilton Harbour for a swim on a media dare to prove that the water was clean enough. Never missing a single opportunity to boost Hamilton, he often traveled back from his vacation cottage in Muskoka to attend a store opening or a community event, and then he'd drive back all night. As a citizenship judge in the last decade, he welcomed thousands of new Canadians to the city he loved so much. Bob Morrow was one of the most truly honourable people I've had the privilege of knowing. Bob, you are and will be sorely missed by all, my friend. Rest in peace.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to talk about an amazing new project in New Brunswick Southwest. The East Coast Greenway will soon come to life, creating the longest international trail in the world. This trail will travel from Key West, Florida, all the way to the Trans-Canada Trail in St. John, totaling over 4,800 kilometers of pristine trail. Wow. New Brunswick is a province of adventure, and now hikers, cyclists, and explorers can come see our beautiful province and help contribute to our booming tourism industry, which already employs 42,000 people and contributes $520 million to our GDP. Mr. Speaker, New Brunswick truly has something for everyone. I would like to invite all members in this House and for Canadians from coast to coast to coast to come experience our beautiful new trail. You never know where the trail may lead you. Thank you.
The honourable member for Mississauga East Cooksville.
Mr. Speaker, with hours to go until the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games, I can assure this House and all Canadians without hesitation that our Canadian Olympic and Paralympic teams are ready for the upcoming Games in Pyeongchang. Our government's working with the Canadian Olympic and Paralympic committees, the national sports organizations, and our valued partners like Own the Podium and the Coaching Association of Canada to support our athletes and coaches as they push for the podium against the world's best. Team Canada plans to build on its previous successes and contend for the peak positions with the planet's finest athletes. I want to encourage all Canadians, the team behind the team, to make sure that our athletes feel our collective support. As a former Olympian, I can assure you the feeling of having a whole country behind you makes a difference. Go Canada, do your best. We are already proud of you. Go Canada! Go!
The honourable member for Stormont Dundas, South Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, this evening honourable members of this House will have the opportunity to vote on my private member's motion 133, which aims to establish a British Home Child Day in Canada to be celebrated yearly on September the 28th. Until recent years, very few Canadians knew about the British Home Children. Their stories of hardship, courage, determination and perseverance are not part of Canadian history books. This needs to change. Eleanor McGrath, a constituent of mine, has released a wonderful documentary called Forgotten. I encourage everyone, Mr. Speaker, to watch it on TVO this coming February the 22nd at 9 p.m. Mr. Speaker, we owe a great deal to these children for their contributions to our country. So far, we have been failing them. I encourage all members to take an effort to learn more about the story of the British Home Children, to share that knowledge with their constituents, and to do all they can to ensure that this chapter of their collective story is never forgotten.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Vimy. Mr. Speaker, last January, the government announced the investment in the relocating of the Armand Frappier Museum and also the Centre for Bioscience Interpretation to the Cosmodome. $2.7 million will not only allow the museum to expand and to welcome more visitors, it would also help with new exhibitions, acquisitions, and setting up the latest equipment. I'm proud that our government is supporting this project and that it's working to make sure that culture and science can have an even higher profile. I invite everyone to join with us, with my fellow MPs. I also invite employees to come for the reopening of the Armand Frappier Museum and the Centre for Bioscience Interpretation. Thank you.
Valley West.
Mr. Speaker, for 43 years, Mona Piper, Toronto's longest-serving school crossing guard, helped generations of students cross the road on their way to and from Morris Cody Public School. Mona loved the children she helped. She knew them all by name. And even after she retired last September, she would sit on her front porch at the corner of Cleveland Street and Millwood Road to wave at them as they made their way to school. On January 31st, Mona died at the age of 88. She'll be remembered for her infectious smile, loving personality, words of encouragement, and quick wit. But Mona's memory and her contribution to our community will live on. Just a few blocks from where she lived, construction has begun on a new children's park. Thanks to Councillor Josh Matlow, when it opens in the spring, a new generation of children in Don Valley West will begin to play at the Mona Piper Playground. Please join me and the member from Toronto St. Paul's in recognizing Mona's legacy, more than 4 decades of kindness and service to the community and the children she loved.
Hey, Mona. Honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, all of us are hearing the outrage of our constituents about the Liberal summer jobs values test attestation. We've heard from many groups in Liberal-held ridings who were past recipients who have received money from their Liberal MPs to feed the homeless, help refugees and support kids, but will now be denied because of this values test. Even municipalities are impacted. One letter I read reads, "For years our town has hired students under the student employee program. This year that will not take place because of the new application requirements. Our council in good faith is not able to comply." Another letter reads, "I'm a pastor at a local church here in Brampton, and it is very disheartening knowing that we will not be getting the chance to receive summer students this summer based on the new policy." I read an article in which one of the Liberals said, "Just check the stupid box." My response is that if it's just a stupid box, then why is it there? This values test attestation is wrong, un-Canadian, and a violation of the Charter. Canadians can count on the Conservatives to oppose this values test every step of the way.
Honourable member for Humber River, Black Creek.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, like many others, were shocked to learn of the horrific earthquake that struck the east coast of Taiwan yesterday, leaving at least 4 people dead and several hundred injured. Armed forces and government agencies are responding as quickly as possible in the hopes of assisting those in need. As a Canadian parliamentarian representing a city with a large and active Taiwanese population, As well as being the chair of the Canada-Taiwan Parliamentary Friendship Group, many of us have had the opportunity to travel to Taiwan and have made many friends that call Taiwan home. May our hopes and our prayers be with them all at this terrible time and at this disaster. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, many courageous women across Canada are working hard every day to break the glass ceiling. And there are still some men who don't like women in their workplace. Happily, there are determined and inspiring women like Doris Nollet at Normetal, who, at all of 5 feet tall, wanted to become a firewoman in 1986. She had to wait till 2004. Today, because of her determination, Doris Nollet is the new chief of the 21 volunteer firefighters. This is an extraordinary exploit when we remember that women represent less than 3% of the workforce in firefighting. Volunteer firefighters are essential to protecting our communities, and I think that there should be better legislative protection of women in this field. Congratulations to Doris Nollet for showing girls that you can become a firewoman and even be a chief. It's possible.
Springwater, Oro Medante.
Mr. Speaker, it's my honor to stand today and speak about our country's greatest resource, our youth. I, too, was young when I got into politics as a student mayor, still a youth when I was first elected to Barrie City Council at 21. People would say, you're going to be a great leader one day, but that's the biggest lie that we tell our young people. They're leading us to be more environmentally conscious, protecting our lakes, streams, and rivers. They're leading us to ensure competition in the marketplace with apps like Lyft or Uber that are disrupting tired old government systems. They're shaping new technologies, creating new jobs. Their social ideals are shown by people like Zach from Barrie, who ran all the way to Ottawa raising awareness for youth mental health. They are clean from the notions of trading ideals for access and insulated from the worst of our politics. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize our young people across this country who are vehicles of change and who are leaders, not a year from now, not a decade from now, not a lifetime from now, but today.
Right now. Yes.
Honourable Member for St. Catharines.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As we celebrate Black History Month, we take time to highlight the important contributions of Black Canadian leaders in our communities. I'd like to take a moment to highlight a leader in Niagara, Dr. Gervin Fearon. In St. Catharines, Brock University is a fundamental part of our community, and the university recently appointed Dr. Fearon as its 6th president and vice chancellor. He is also the university's very first Black Canadian president. In fact, he became the first Black Canadian to become a university president in 2014 when he was named president and vice chancellor of Brandon University. Dr. Fearon has distinguished himself during his career as a teacher, researcher, and public servant. I'd like to recognize Dr. Fearon for his leadership, for forging a new path, including contributing to the building of outstanding post-secondary institutions, businesses, and communities throughout Canada. I've enjoyed my conversations with Dr. Fearon, and I'm looking forward to seeing him implement his vision for Brock that I know will have a positive impact beyond the campus. He is a role model for all Canadians and proud to celebrate his contributions to St. Catharines and Canada. Thank you.
Oral questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals were shameful as they opened up a second front in their fight against veterans. This time, the Prime Minister said that he doesn't have to provide a safe workspace free from harassment, nor does he have to have a policy to prevent sexual harassment and assault. Why is the Prime Minister using all of these means against our veterans while he allows convicted terrorists walk away with a $10 million check?
The Minister of National Defence.
Speaker, let me be very clear on this matter. Inappropriate sexual behavior of any kind is completely unacceptable and will not be tolerated. Mr. Speaker, our government has been very clear that we are committed to a harassment-free workplace for all Canadians. We have recently tabled Bill C-65, and we have a proven track record on this matter. Though I cannot speak to the specifics of this case, as a government, we have made our approach clear on issues like these, and we will continue along this path. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I can speak to the specifics of this case. This minister specifically instructed his lawyers to argue that the armed forces does not have a duty to provide women a safe place to work. That is shameful. And they have also specifically excluded the armed forces from their legislation. So why does the Prime Minister say one thing when it's all about symbolism, but when the hard work of actually implementing these things, he's missing in action?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as I stated, I cannot talk to the specifics of this case, but we are committed to making sure that we have a harassment-free workplace in the Canadian Armed Forces, Mr. Speaker. We encourage all members to come forward. And with our new defence policy, Mr. Speaker, we're investing in our people to making sure that we get this job done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This government, this Liberal government, is arguing in court that they have no duty to provide a safe place for women to work in the armed forces. That is shameful, and it flies in the face of every phony statement the Prime Minister has ever said on this issue. And the Prime Minister cannot blame a government lawyer. The Prime Minister actually instituted a cabinet committee to oversee litigation, to put a political screen on all these types of arguments. And you know who sits on that committee? The Minister of Justice. What does the Minister of Justice think about her government's lawyers arguing this in court?
Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, our track record on this matter has been very clear since the time we formed government. We have, Mr. Speaker, since September 2015, 55 members have been released due to the inappropriate sexual behavior, Mr. Speaker. We are committed to making sure that we have a harassment-free workplace within the Canadian Armed Forces, and Op Honor is going to get that job done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, words don't lie, and doublespeak is very clear in the following case. The Minister of Defence on his own website pledges that the Forces is fully committed to a workplace free of harassment and discrimination, yet the lawyers for this government said that it's not their job to care to individual members within the forces to provide a safe and harassment-free work environment. Which is it, Mr. Speaker? Do they stand with women in the forces or do they not?
Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I could not even be more clear on this matter. We are going to stomp this problem out, Mr. Speaker. Op Honor was created on this matter, Mr. Speaker, and our defence policy is going to make sure that we create the proper environment to allow any Canadian who wants to join the Canadian Armed Forces to be able to pursue a career and to be able to develop to their full potential. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Milton.
The most tawdry part of all this, Mr. Speaker, is that the Litigation Committee of Cabinet, which is charged with overseeing how lawyers are instructed, has 5 women sitting on it. Do any one of those 5 female Liberal ministers want to stand up and let us know exactly why they think it's okay they have protection in the workplace, and yet women in the forces do not? Will they pull this brief?
Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Zero tolerance for any type of sexual misbehavior.
Order. It's early in question. Yes, it's Wednesday, but the rules still apply, and the members are familiar with the standing orders and the rule against interrupting. The Honourable Minister of National Defence has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, let me be extremely clear. We have an absolute zero tolerance for any type of behavior like this, and that's exactly what we're going to do, Mr. Speaker. We have committed to this in our defence policy, and we're going to get the job done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Rimouski-Neige-Témiscouata-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the European Commissioner for Economic and Financial Affairs, Pierre Moscovici, wants internet multinationals to pay their fair share of taxes in Europe. It makes sense that companies should pay their fair share. But in Canada, the government is stubbornly going against the current. and allowing web giants not to pay their fair share of taxes. While Canadian companies have sales tax imposed on every transaction, why is the government showing favoritism to web giants like Facebook, Amazon, and Netflix? The Honourable Minister of Heritage. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has been clear on this. We made a promise, and we will keep it. That said, we recognize that in the long term, we need to develop an overall solution when it comes to taxing digital platforms. We will not have a piecemeal approach. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata.
Today, the Prime Minister is travelling to Silicon Valley to visit Amazon. Will he be asking them to impose taxes on the products they sell in Canada as they should, or will he be negotiating a cozy deal? What we're asking is simple: fairness. When you're exempting a company to collect taxes on their sales, you're giving them an unfair 8 to 15% advantage. If you're not ensuring the same rules apply for everyone, then you're playing favorites. Why does the government have one set of tax rules for the web giants and another one for everybody else?
The Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Mr. President, the Prime Minister has been very clear, and we have made a commitment, and we will keep it. That being said, we recognize that in the long term, we must look in finding a global solution to address the entire question of taxation over digital platforms, and we won't have a piecemeal approach. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Berthier-Maskinongé.
Sexual assault and harassment in the Canadian Armed Forces launched a class action lawsuit in May. On January 29th, in response to my question on sexual violence and harassment, the Prime Minister said, "This is a problem that has gone on for far too long, and it is time that we deal with it, particularly here in Parliament, where we set an example for the rest of the country." However, by attempting to quash the lawsuit, the example the Prime Minister is setting is completely irresponsible and reprehensible. Will the Prime Minister withdraw the government's attempts to discredit these victims?
The Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member opposite for her passion on this issue. As I stated, we will want to be able to work with the opposition on this issue, because this is an important issue that that impacts all of us. We need to make sure that we have a harassment-free workplace, especially in the Canadian Armed Forces, Mr. Speaker, and with our new defence policy and with Operation Honour, we are going to get the job done. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Berthier-Maskinongé. Mr. Speaker, here on Parliament Hill, the era of sexual harassment, bullying, and inappropriate behaviour is over. And now the men and women who've served our country want to know what their government intends to do to change the culture in the Canadian Armed Forces. These women and men expect more than just a discussion with the minister. They expect concrete action today. What is the government's plan, Mr. Speaker?
Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as part of Operation Honour, we're going to get the job done. Every person who willingly serves their country, despite the many dangers and sacrifices of military service, deserves a professional environment in which they are treated with respect and dignity. And that's the type of path that we're going to go on, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to get the job done. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, I think that everyone knows now that the Prime Minister was found guilty of contravening not one but 4 sections of the Conflict of Interest Act. He accepted a trip to a billionaire's private island, which incurred federal government funds. He brought his family along with him, as well as his friend, the Minister of Veterans Affairs, and even the chair of the Liberal Party, all at taxpayers' expense. And this is a trip that cost $200,000. I don't know if the leader can actually tell the Prime Minister that he needs to show some honor and reimburse the money that he took from Canadians. The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, our security organizations decide on what is necessary to protect the Prime Minister, just as they have always done for past Prime Ministers. We will be following their recommendations. The former Commissioner recognized that these expenses were incurred as part of the functions of the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister will continue to work with the Commissioner to approve his future travel plans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, it's always the same thing. When Liberal ministers spent money illegally, they had to pay it back. When the Prime Minister's staffers spent money illegally, they had to pay the money back. When citizens don't pay their taxes, the government makes sure that they pay back that money with interest. When a Canadian wants to take a holiday, he pays for it himself. So what we all want to know is there one special law for the Prime Minister and another for everyone else? From all of the parties in this House and other Canadians? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, as I've said many times, the former Commissioner recognized that this spending was incurred as part of the Prime Minister's regular functions. The opposition called for an investigation, and now that the report has been tabled, they are refusing to accept its conclusions. On this side of the House, we respect the work of the Commissioner, and we will accept the conclusions of the report. The Prime Minister has taken responsibility for this. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal House Leader answering for the Prime Minister says he accepted the Ethics Commissioner's recommendations. Mr. Speaker, the Ethics Commissioner made no recommendations. The Ethics Commissioner found the Prime Minister broke the law. Now, the Health Minister paid back her inappropriate travel expenses because the Prime Minister made her pay them back. Now, with a clear finding that he broke the law, why won't he just pay it back?
Government House Leader.
Just said in French, I shall repeat in English, that the former Commissioner has acknowledged that these costs are incurred as part of the role of the Prime Minister. It was the Conservatives that demanded that an investigation take place, and now that an investigation has taken place and the ex-Commissioner has submitted her report, they refuse to accept its conclusions. We on this side respect the work of officers of Parliament. We thank the ex-Commissioner for her important work. The Prime Minister has accepted responsibility. The Prime Minister has accepted his findings. There was recommendations that were put in place. That's exactly why the Prime Minister put a screen in place. That's exactly why he will ensure that future family vacations are cleared ahead of time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, a big part of the $200,000 wasted on the Prime Minister's illegal trip was generated by the security detail that must accompany him wherever he chooses to go. Canadians accept that for working trips to the UN or the G7 or perhaps even the Davos Celebrity Fest. But after the Prime Minister dragged his security detail along on his illegal vacation, and they had no choice but to accompany, the Prime Minister owns those wasted dollars. So why won't he do the right thing and pay it back?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Security agencies that are tasked with the responsibility to provide their expertise to ensure that the safety of the Prime Minister is ensured. Whenever and wherever the Prime Minister travels, there are costs related to security. We always accept the advice of our security agencies as to how to best ensure the safety of the Prime Minister, as was the case for past Prime Ministers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Beauport, Côte de Beaupré, Île d'Orléans, Charlevoix. It's been more than a month since the former Ethics Commissioner's report was tabled. The Prime Minister has been saying since then that he takes full responsibility and that he accepts the recommendations. But he's shown no leadership on this file. As head of state, he should set an example and be proactive, not lead a race to the bottom. Even if the Commissioner can't force him to pay back the cost of this illegal travel, which was funded with taxpayer money, why won't this Prime Minister choose to reimburse this extravagant spending himself? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, as soon as the report was published, the Prime Minister took responsibility and accepted the conclusions of the report, just as a Prime Minister should. The Prime Minister accepted responsibility. He accepted the conclusions of the report. The difference between the Conservatives and the government is that the Conservatives never accepted the work of officers of Parliament. On this side of the House, we respect their work and appreciate their work. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Chilliwack, HoC.
The Prime Minister was found guilty of improperly arranging his personal affairs, found guilty of accepting illegal gifts, found guilty of accepting a ride on a private aircraft, and found guilty of conducting illegal discussions about government business. But the Prime Minister didn't just take an illegal trip. He sent taxpayers a $200,000 bill for it. When other Liberals have been found ripping off taxpayers, they've been forced to pay the money back. Why is the Prime Minister held to a lower standard? Why doesn't he do the right thing and pay it back?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Immediately after the report was released, the Prime Minister accepted responsibility and accepted the findings of the report. The member opposite needs to be corrected because even within the report, and I encourage the member to read the report in its entirety, she recognized that he did not contravene subsection 6. Subsection 1, because he did not participate in or make any decisions relating to the Aga Khan and his institutions, and did not contravene Section 7 because he did not give preferential treatment to the Aga Khan. Mr. Speaker, I encourage the member opposite to have respect for this institution and to do the important work we are here to do. We on this side will always respect officers of Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway. Order.
Mr. Speaker, we're 5 months away from the Prime Minister's promised July 1 deadline for cannabis legalization. But now the Liberal government is backing away from that date, causing confusion and concern. Meanwhile, thousands of mostly marginalized Canadians are getting slapped with criminal records for offences that are about to be legal, and the government isn't saying if, whether, or when they'll provide them with amnesty. Why is this government hypocritically prosecuting Canadians? Why won't it commit to a fair pardon process? And when will cannabis be legal in Canada?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, this is a huge change in Canadian law, and it must be approached in a sensible, orderly, practical way. Until Parliament has passed the legislation and enacted a new regime, the old regime remains in effect, and that law must be respected. In the meantime, Mr. Speaker, I think all Canadians understand the government's objectives. Do a better job of keeping cannabis out of the hands of our kids, do a better job of keeping illegal cash out of the hands of organized crime, and increase safety on our roads. That's what C-45 and C-46 will accomplish.
Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. So that means that they'll continue to hand out criminal records. Mr. Speaker, media reports suggest that as the date of cannabis legalization approaches, U.S. authorities are concerned about delays at the border. While thousands of Canadians continue to be penalized with criminal records for simple possession, the government won't guarantee that they won't have issues at the border after legalization, even with pardons. Can the government reassure these thousands of people that things will go fine for them when they arrive at the border in future trips?
For public safety.
Mr. Speaker, we've had ongoing discussions with American officials, including the new Ambassador of the United States to Canada and the new Homeland Security Secretary. Our various agencies are discussing what is necessary to ensure that there is a smooth flow at the border in terms of people crossing in the ordinary way, remembering always that the export or the import of cannabis has always been illegal and will remain illegal, Mr. Speaker. Canadians need to know what the American requirements are, and we will make sure that Canadians understand very clearly what the law is.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister continues to act like this scandal is no big deal. He continues to act like he's exempt from the ethics rules of this House. But we continue to believe that no one is exempt, including our princely Prime Minister. Will he admit that he deliberately circumvented the federal law and that he abused the system and abused the trust of Canadians by paying for his family holiday with taxpayer money? Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister tell us if he will pay back Canadians for the cost of his family holiday? Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, as was the case for former Prime Ministers and for the current Prime Minister, whenever Prime Ministers travel, there are costs associated with that have to do with security. The Commissioner stated that these expenses were incurred as part of the role of Prime Minister.
We accept the findings of the Ethics Commissioner's report. The Commissioner found that by accepting a gift from someone who has business dealings with the government, the Prime Minister broke the law. When the Minister of Health incurred questionable travel expenses, the Prime Minister forced her to pay it back. When the Prime Minister spends $200,000, however, for an illegal vacation, he excuses himself. Why won't he do the right thing and pay it back?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, as I have said, immediately after the report was released, the Prime Minister did the right thing by accepting responsibility and accepting its findings. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has been present in this House and has answered over 1,400 questions. Immediately after the report was released, the Prime Minister made himself available to the media to ensure that he could answer questions, to ensure that Canadians were having the answers that they deserve. The Prime Minister went one step further and traveled the country at open, available public town halls, answered questions directly from Canadians. Canadians are concerned about the economy. Canadians are concerned about many other issues, and the Conservatives refuse to focus on the economy because they know our plan is working. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member Order. The Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, there's been a number of Liberals who've repaid inappropriate expenses. It was the right thing to do, and yet we have the first Prime Minister in the history of our nation found guilty on 4 counts of ethics violations, refusing to pay back taxpayers. The same Prime Minister is so afraid to talk about his law-breaking that he hides behind his talking points on the middle class. Well, Mr. Speaker, let's talk about that. When was the last time a middle-class Canadian family spent over $200 grand on a family vacation? So it begs the question, why the double standard?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
The report was released, the Prime Minister accepted responsibility, he accepted the findings of the report. The member is correct. This government will continue to focus on Canadians. While the Conservatives choose to focus on this Prime Minister, the Conservatives choose to focus on this government. This Prime Minister, this government will continue to focus on Canadians, to focus on the very real challenges that they are working. You'll notice, Mr. Speaker, that our plan is working. Canadians have created 422,000 jobs. Jobs for Canadians, by Canadians, because of the strategic investments that this government is making in Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I repeat, this government, this Prime Minister will continue focusing on Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Well, I do agree with one thing with the Government House Leader, Mr. Speaker. They are focused on ripping off Canadians, and they're focused on living a champagne and caviar lifestyle off the backs of hard-working taxpayers. The Prime Minister knew his actions were illegal, and he tried to hide it. The rules don't apply to him. Taxpayer-funded nannies, tax changes that don't affect him, millions to terrorists, mandate letters not worth the paper they're written on. It's Liberal hypocrisy on steroids. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister do the right thing and repay taxpayers? Yes or no?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Minister, immediately after the report was released, the Prime Minister accepted responsibility, accepted its findings. The former Commissioner has acknowledged that there are costs that are incurred as part of the role of the Prime Minister. When it comes to our security agencies, we take their recommendations, we take their advice, and we will continue to do so. This government will continue to focus on Canadians to ensure that the economy is working for Canadians. We will make sure that the immigration rules are working to reunite families, Mr. Speaker. This government will continue to focus on veterans to ensure that they have the services that they deserve, Mr. Speaker. This government will continue to focus on Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, more than 20 civil society groups in Canada raised serious concerns about military agreements with the Philippines. Yesterday, we found out that Canada sold fighter helicopters for hundreds of millions of dollars to the Duterte regime, which has a horrible track record in matters of human rights. How can the Liberal government justify selling these helicopters to the Filipino army when it knows that it could use them against civilians? What are this government's principles? The Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, we have not received a request for a permit for this contract. The Prime Minister and myself have both been very clear about our opinions regarding human rights violations and extrajudiciary executions committed by the Duterte regime, including when we were in the Philippines. I am going to conduct an extremely rigorous analysis of human rights for any export permit request linked to this contract.
I'm out Sanich Suk.
Mr. Speaker, one of the cruel ironies of this helicopter deal is that Philippine President Duterte, who's unquestionably presiding over one of the world's worst human rights situations, once admitted to throwing a man out of a helicopter and said he would do it again. This is a country where extrajudicial executions continue to be condoned by the President. It is absolutely clear that this deal would never be approved under the human rights standards required by the Arms Trade Treaty. So will the minister stand in this House now and indicate clearly that there is no way that the export of these helicopters to the Philippines will be approved?
Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we have received no application for an export permit related to this contract. The Prime Minister and I have been very clear about the Duterte regime's human rights violations and extrajudicial killings, including while in the Philippines. I will conduct an extremely rigorous human rights analysis of any potential export permit application related to this contract. I have the power to deny a permit if I feel that it poses a risk to human rights, and I am prepared to do so.
Honourable Member for Yukon.
Mr. Speaker, today the Ministry of Families, Children and Social Development welcomed the Yukon Minister of Health and Social Services, Pauline Frost, and the other Yukon government representatives to Ottawa to sign our government's 7th agreement on early learning and childcare. Good stuff. Thanks to this agreement, the Yukon will receive more than $7 million over the next 3 years to ensure that Yukon children can receive the best possible start in life. Could the Minister please tell the House how this money will be spent?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like first to thank and congratulate our dear colleague from the Yukon for his hard work on behalf of Yukon families and children. I was pleased and proud today to sign with the government of Yukon an agreement that will increase by more than 30% its investment in early learning and childcare for the benefits of educators, parents, including, of course, mothers and children. This is part of a 10-year long-term plan to increase the accessibility, the quality and affordability of early learning and childcare for all Canadian families and children, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Wonderful. The member for Yorkton Melville.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Legion condemned the comments made by this Prime Minister in regards to veterans. They said, and I quote, "These sorts of words are extremely insensitive to Canadian veterans," and we agree. Veterans know that the Prime Minister broke his promise to them, and to add insult to injury, he has made dismissive comments claiming that they are asking for too much. They are only asking for what he promised. When will this Prime Minister apologize to our veterans for his extremely insensitive comments?
Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
We are committed to the well-being of veterans and their families. We have kept our promise. The new lifetime pension benefit is not taxable. This pension for life recognizes their suffering and their pain. This is a 90% salary equivalent, and it's indexed for life and for those who need it. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has said that our veterans, my former brothers in arms, and that of the former Minister of Defence are asking too much. But he wrote a $10 million check to a recognized terrorist. The Prime Minister had promised that he would not drag our veterans before the courts during the election campaign, but after it was done, those promises disappeared. Can the Prime Minister explain why he is so disconnected from the reality of soldiers and veterans who are often injured or disabled? The Minister for Veterans Affairs.
I am always glad to have the opportunity to speak to this government's record on veterans and compare it to those of the other side. And let me take our new Pension for Life proposal and talk about a 30-year-old veteran with 12 years of service, with osteoarthritis of the spine and multiple joints and hearing loss, who is 60% disabled. He or she would receive over $4,600 a month across their lifetime in pain and suffering compensation and income replacement, $1,000 a month in caregiver support, and $80,000 for post-secondary education. That's very real. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Veterans Affairs likes to say we're putting money in, and the Conservatives did nothing. The Conservatives did do one thing. They kept their promises. We did what we said. And now, the Royal Canadian Legion has said that what the Prime Minister said was totally unacceptable. Why are veterans being dragged before the courts? Why do we have to fight to make sure that they get their money? Because after all, Islamic State fighters are getting money without having to work for it.
Mr. Speaker, a corporal who served 5 years in the regular forces and suffered 100% disability is entitled to nearly $6,000 a month in benefits, an additional $1,000 a month for caregiver support, nearly $72,000 through the critical injury benefit, and additional financial assistance to modify her vehicle and her home to meet her needs. Our pension for life option, Mr. Speaker, is very real, and it is the least we owe our veterans. Thank you.
The honourable member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, since we're not getting any answers, my question will now be for the Minister of National Defence, the Parliamentary Secretary for U.S. Relations, or the Parliamentary Secretary for Transport. These veterans stood behind the Prime Minister when he promised two things: a return to lifetime pensions for all our injured, and to never force veterans back to court. How can they stay silent when those veterans now have to go to the Supreme Court of Canada, and when he broke his promise on lifetime pensions?
Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask the honourable member, maybe he could ask the member from Barrie Innisfil why he said the Conservatives lost the trust of veterans. Was it the 9 offices they closed? Was it all the frontline staff that they fired? Was it all the balancing of budgets on the backs of our veterans, Mr. Speaker? Was it one of those, or was it all of the above and more? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hello.
Order. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. Mr. Speaker, seasonal workers in Quebec and Acadia, working men and women, as of this week, will be without an income because of the black hole in EI benefits. Despite the unanimous calls for action by unions and other organizations, the Liberals still refuse to act, and they've left these working men and women and their families without an income. When will the government act to set up a pilot project or any other project to extend the benefit period and offer these workers of seasonal industries a small measure of stability? The Minister of Social Development. Thank you. I'm grateful to my colleague for giving me the opportunity to draw attention to the fact that the EI benefit is there to support our workers and their transition when they are between jobs. The Canadian government has implemented many measures over the last few years to improve the flexibility and the generosity of EI benefits. There is significant economic growth. We still have a lot of work to do, but we are working with our partners, including unions and provinces, in order to do better.
Mr. Speaker, these are hollow words for workers in the Atlantic and in other parts of the country. The reality is they are being cut off EI, and at the same time, this Liberal government is creating a $2 billion hole in the program. So the question is, when will this government stand up for seasonal workers? When will they create a pilot project to extend the benefit period? And finally, when will this government stop taking Atlantic Canadians and so many others for granted?
Honourable Minister of Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government was elected to grow the economy, to grow the middle class, and it is sensitive to the challenges and issues of all Canadians. Everyone wants to take advantage of the economic growth that we enjoy now. We are very well aware of the concerns that are being raised in eastern parts of the country, especially where seasonal work is significant. We are working very closely with these sectors, and we are continuing the work that we've been doing for the last 2 years to improve the flexibility of the EI system. Thank you.
Shepherd.
Mr. Speaker, Bangladesh has just banned one of China's state-owned enterprises due to corruption and bribery. It happens to be the same organization as the one proposing to buy the big Canadian construction giant HoC. Bangladesh is ranked as the 31st most corrupt place to do business, according to Transparency International. If the government of Bangladesh says this China state-owned corporation is too corrupt to do business with, then why won't the Prime Minister commit to a national security review and to extending the review period so that Canadians can have their say?
Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Under the Investment Canada Act, which I'm responsible for, there's a robust and rigorous process to look at all these issues raised by the member opposite. We listen to our national security agencies. We follow their advice. In the past, we never have, and we never will compromise on national security. We will always make sure that any decision that we make will be in the best interest of all Canadians.
The member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Non-answer, Mr. Speaker. Well, let's try again. The Chinese company poised to take over Canadian construction giant HoC is rampant with corruption and has just been blacklisted by Bangladesh for that very reason. We know HoC has been awarded numerous sensitive Canadian government contracts, including working with our military and in the nuclear sector. When Bangladesh is sounding alarm bells, why is Canada staying silent and not calling for a full national security review of the takeover of HoC?
The Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite knows full well under the Investment Canada Act, all such transactions are subject to a national security review. This is a multi-step process that we always follow, Mr. Speaker. We take the advice of our national security agencies very seriously. We follow that advice. We've been very clear when it comes to national security that we will never compromise on that. We will do our due diligence, we will follow the process, and we will make sure that the outcome will benefit all Canadians.
The member for Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
Mr. Speaker, the list of reasons to stop the Communist China takeover of HoC continues to grow. The state-controlled company has been connected to bribery, corruption, and collusion in many countries, and last month they were banned from Bangladesh. China continues to launch cyber attacks against Canada, is a human rights violator, and now poses a threat to the security of our internet banking and communication systems, to name a few. Can the Minister finally confirm that this proposed takeover will be subject to a vigorous national security review?
Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, we have been absolutely clear on this side of the House that we will follow the multi-step process when it comes to national security reviews. We always have done that and will continue to do that, Mr. Speaker. What I find problematic is the members opposite have no faith and confidence in our national security agencies. We do. We will follow their advice. We have followed their advice and will continue to follow their advice, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
It is our responsibility as members of Parliament to stand up for the most vulnerable members of society. There are few people more vulnerable than victims of child sexual exploitation online. Over 6,000 incidents were reported in Canada in 2016, and there are many more that go unreported. Each of these incidents is a child who deserves security and a chance to be a kid. The people of Winnipeg Centre would be interested to know what the government is doing now to step up the fight and protect Canadian children.
Good question. For public safety.
My thanks to the member for Winnipeg Centre. The sexual exploitation of children is an intolerable crime. This morning I announced an additional $4.1 million for the Canadian Centre for Child Protection in Winnipeg. The funding will be used to operate a cyber tip line, support victims, and enhance the Arachnid program, which is cutting-edge Canadian software that helps remove exploitive content. We must keep doing everything possible to protect our children, bring perpetrators to justice, and stop these horrendous crimes.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, Trans Mountain was federally approved in 2016 because it's in the national interest. But every day and every delay puts it at risk, just like the other multi-billion-dollar opportunities lost on the Liberals' watch. The interprovincial conflict is escalating, but the Liberals are MIA. They're failing to act on their own approval and failing to act in the best interests of all of Canada. The BC NDP is trying to kill the pipeline, just like they promised they would. The Liberals can't let them keep stalling. What does the minister consider to be an unusual or unnecessary delay? And exactly what action will he take to ensure this vital infrastructure gets built?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The decision we took on Trans Mountain Expansion Project was based on facts and evidence and what is in the national interest. We look forward to working with every province and territory to ensure a strong future for Canadians, but the facts and evidence do not change. This project will diversify our markets, be built with improved environmental safety, and ensure a strong future for all Canadians. Our government made the right decision when we approved the federally regulated project, and we stand by that decision. The pipeline falls under federal jurisdiction. This pipeline will be built. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Elmwood, Transcona.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We've seen too many times this government's indifference to the pensions of private sector workers like those at Sears, but right under their nose at Canadian Nuclear Laboratories, there's thousands of workers from Chalk River, Ontario to Pinawa, Manitoba, who are going to be kicked out of the public service pension plan in September because of the federal government's privatization agenda. So what we want to know, the government's known about this issue for a long time now, Mr. Speaker. What we want to know is whether the President of the Treasury Board will stand up today and let these workers know what's going to happen to their pension in September.
Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, we have immense respect for our public service. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, we have an understanding of the importance of strong, well-funded pension plans, which is why our finance minister has worked with provincial and territorial governments to strengthen the CPP across Canada. The question the honourable member has asked is one that the Minister of Natural Resources is engaged in. We will work with all stakeholders and we will ensure that all public servants are treated fairly, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When it is time to file taxes, many people have particular challenges. Some live far away from urban centres or have mobility problems, or they don't have internet access. That can be a challenge. Can the Minister for National Revenue inform this House on the measures that are being taken to help Canadians file their taxes? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my excellent Acadian colleague from Madawaska-Restigouche for his question and for his work in our regions. Improving the agency services is at the heart of my mandate letter. That is why we are trying to make things easier for people who file their taxes by paper by mailing them the forms that they need to file their taxes. We have also launched a new service that will help eligible Canadians file their taxes by answering simple questions through an automated telephone service. I encourage all Canadians to file their taxes if they want to get the credits that they are entitled to.
Mr. Speaker, it's been 27 days since the ferry border crossing in my riding was crushed by ice from Coast Guard traffic and closed. The ferry serves as a much-needed economic link between Canada and the U.S. Now businesses on both sides of the border are threatened with closure, and constituents in my riding are extremely concerned. When will the Prime Minister take action and get this border crossing open?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Fisheries.
Mr. Speaker, the women and men of the Canadian Coast Guard work hard every day to provide icebreaking services that keep our waters safe and economy strong. My heart goes out to everyone that has been negatively affected or will be negatively affected by damage to the Sombra Wharf. I've agreed with the member opposite to meet with the mayor of the local community in the near future. I know that the other federal departments have been working to see if there's any way we can help. Unfortunately, the shipping lane that the Canadian icebreaker was on was nowhere near the ferry dock, and no link can be found between the damage to the ferry dock and the transit of the Canadian Coast Guard vessel.
Member for Nunavut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions for the Prime Minister. Roundtable meetings are currently taking place to discuss Canada's new Arctic policy framework. I believe that this new policy will have a huge effect on the government of Nunavut and will influence their capabilities for years to come. It is for this reason that the government of Nunavut must be considered a true partner. Unilateral decisions like last year's moratorium on Arctic oil and gas are not acceptable and cannot be how Arctic policy unfolds. Will the Prime Minister ensure that the government in Nunavut is at the forefront of any policy decisions? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Crown Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs.
Our government is co-developing the Arctic policy framework in partnerships with the territorial, provincial, and Indigenous partners. The engagement process has already highlighted the strong Arctic peoples and communities that must be at the core of the framework. Previous governments imposed their priorities, but this framework will be created by Northerners for the North. Together, we will develop a shared vision for a strong, prosperous, and sustainable Arctic.
I have the honor to inform the House that a communication has been received as follows. Bill assented to, Wednesday, February 7, 2018, an act to amend the National Anthem Act Gender, Bill C-210.
I have the honor to inform the House that a communication has been received. Today we have royal assent this Wednesday, changing the national anthem. The honourable member on a point of order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, yesterday during question period, I used unparliamentary language and hurt someone. So I don't want to hurt anyone, and I withdraw my words. I thank the honourable member. And I believe that there is another point of order. Well, now that that's done, Mr. Speaker, I would ask for unanimous consent for the following motion, that this House demand that the government do not harm supply management in its next agreement, the TPP. All those in favour? All those? So the House has heard the question. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed? Agreed.